You're now listening to the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. Straightforward, no nonsense business advice. Completely unfiltered. Grow your business. Grow your life. Now, here's your host, Brian Fullerton.
All right, what's going on, guys? Hey, we are joined today by Michael Newland. He is joining us all the way from the beautiful state of Ohio. And Mike is the Director of Agriculture here and Business Development, joining us with the Propane Education and Research Council. Michael, good morning. How are we doing, brother?
Hey, good, Brian. How are you?
Good. We're getting 3-4 days of nonstop rain. I feel like we're stuck in the mud trying to finish up our fall cleanups, but also get ready for snow season. But are you guys getting that similar weather pattern in Ohio?
Yeah, it could be worse. We did get some rain over the weekend. We're getting a couple days and maybe a little snow tomorrow. So 'tis the season, I guess. We'll take what we get at this point.
Yeah, amen to that. Well, the fall winter is always a good time to regroup for our businesses. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about education about propane, and this is going to be a little bit of a learning curve for me as well. So I'm hoping to get the lay of the land here. I do have some interesting stories that I'm hoping to share along the way about propane. I've seen the propane-powered equipment out there. It makes people turn their heads and say, what the heck is that on the side of that mower or piece of equipment? Before we go down all those stories and all those rabbit holes, let's zoom out really quick. Let's try to get the lay of the land, like I said earlier. What's your background, and who is the Propane Council, and where are you guys coming from?
Yes, we'll talk about PERC a little bit. So PERC, Propane Education Research Council, we do all the safety training for the propane industry. So that's our main focus. We also do consumer education, which is what we're doing today. We're educating a segment of the consumer base. We also do some business development activities, which is a really cool part of what I do. We evaluate projects from private companies that may bring a widget to the market that helps our industry. So after evaluating that, we may or may not invest the industry's money in a project to help it come to market. So, but a lot of what we do is safety related, consumer education related. And if folks are out there and need any safety materials, gosh, they're free from us. Every person that's delivering propane is trained with our materials. So go to propane.com. There's actually a learning center. You can do all the safety training you need for you or your company for free.
I love it. So talk to me, what is the propane industry? What is the movement? How can these propane tanks power our lawn equipment? And I'm sure so much more. For anybody who hasn't seen this kind of technology, what are they missing out on?
Yeah, so I think we'll start really at the very core of it. It's the same fuel that you're using in a barbecue grill out back. So there's no difference in the molecule that's powering that gas grill to cook your steak out back. But what we're doing is essentially we're running a vapor through a vapor gasoline engine. So all that gasoline that gets pumped into the engine and combust, it's the same thing that we're doing with propane. So in the mowing segment years ago, folks could buy an OEM propane mower. A lot of those options have gone away at this point. You know, we went through COVID, we went through supply chain disruptions, and I think it was a SKU that was easy to eliminate. The engine companies are just trying to build engines, and we get that. So we've got some great companies that offer conversion kits for a gasoline engine, and that can be essentially bolted on to an existing gasoline engine, and you put a 33-pound propane cylinder on there, and you're ready to roll. So yeah, there's some big benefits, we think, versus gasoline. But I think one of the messages folks may not understand, the same reason the propane works on the food you're cooking out back gives us a huge benefit on emissions against gasoline, against diesel. We can talk a little bit more about it, even against the battery options that are out there. And some people will look at me sideways when I say that we're cleaner than battery, but we'll talk through that in a minute.
Yeah, well, let me ask you this again, just to give a little bit of context here. So we're talking about running our lawn equipment with propane cans and the canisters, the tanks. A lot of folks are, I would imagine, probably pretty familiar with those. Like you said, your barbecue grill, maybe outdoor sporting events, all that kind of stuff. Everybody has those cans around. But we're talking about powering your lawnmowers and your lawn equipment. How long has that technology been around? Is it something brand new? Has it been around the block for a little bit?
No, it's not. Yeah, great question. It's not new. We've been doing it on and off. Well, we've been in the space for over a decade, doing incredibly good work. We've got some really large fleets that are running their exclusive fleet on our fuel. And I guess I do want to say that this is for the stand-up zero-turn market. We actually do some golf course stuff too. But I don't want to give the impression it's for handhelds or anything like that. We think the handheld market is gasoline or it's electric, and probably will remain that way. Probably converting most to electric over time. But we think we've got a great story, a great technology for people to consider, and we think it can help you attain some environmental goals for you as a company or your customers as a corporation. So it's a cool opportunity to investigate.
I like it. Well, let me ask you this. It's been around, it's tested, it's proven. And we'll get into in just a quick second, maybe its role here in the marketplace in the near future. But what has been the feedback, honestly? Anybody who's a pilot program or, converted a couple pieces of equipment, maybe they have a fleet now. What has been the conversation so far?
Yeah, I think you're going to see people amongst the spectrum. And what I mean by that is we've got fleets, pretty substantial fleets. Names of companies what people listening would know are running their entire fleet on our fuel, and I don't think they'll ever leave our fuel. Then you have people who may be interested but unsure of how to start or how to investigate how it would work in their company. And I think it's a different mindset. And what I mean by that, it's, you can't stop at the corner gas station and fill these cylinders up. So I think that's what scares some people, or at least makes them pause and think, how would I do this? And maybe we could dispel some of those fears today.
Yeah, I like it. Well, let me ask you this. As we are growing our businesses, as we're always adopting new technology, I mean, gosh, like you said, since COVID, seems like everybody has a battery option. Everybody is, a couple different states are banning, the sale of two-stroke and four-mix engines. The marketplace is changing a lot, sometimes faster than we'd all like to admit. So as we look at propane as a possibility and, powering our equipment in the future, what is the role of propane compared to maybe a traditional diehard gas engine user, or even somebody that's evaluating electric? I mean, some of the electric equipment, I don't know if you guys can relate. I like the idea, but also the $20,000, $30,000 price tags kind of scare me away as a business owner. So what's your thoughts on all the above? I know that's kind of probably a loaded question.
No, I think it's ideal. I think it's got to be discussed. So let's talk through, the battery one first. For the exact reasons you just mentioned, the initial capital cost, I think, is a challenge for the market today. With any new technology, I'm sure it'll become more and more affordable over time. But we think we've got a better option today in 2023 than what the battery market offers this clientele. We say that because we are clean. I always tell people, I think we're the cleanest commercially available combustion fuel on the planet. Some people will perk up and say, well, what about hydrogen? Well, hydrogen's not commercially available today, in my opinion. You can buy it. There's some labs that are doing it, but at the price of fuel, nobody would buy. It's just not marketable at this point because of the price. So propane's very reasonably priced. We're cleaner than gasoline. We're cleaner than diesel. And then if you look at, and I guess I want to point this out specifically to the listeners, zero emissions at a battery mower doesn't mean there are no emissions to it. And we study emissions all the way back to where that electricity is produced. So, you've probably seen the memes about Teslas charging, plug it into your electric socket that the coal plant's powering.
Sure.
That's very true, especially here in the Midwest. We've got a lot of coal power generation plants. If they're not coal or natural gas, and propane is probably still cleaner than the natural gas plant when you calculate in the transmission loss and those types of things. So I think the stats, 38 states were cleaner than the electric grid in 38 states. So folks, I think, would raise their eyebrows a little bit at that. So if you're looking to do something for the clean aspect of it, I don't know that you could do anything cleaner today than propane. So I think that's point number one. You asked a great question about looking at the future and with engine bans. Yeah, we fight that fight just like the gasoline market does, just like the diesel market does. We're using that gasoline powered engine. We're converting it to a propane kit with a propane kit, and we have those same issues to deal with that the gasoline market does as well. We can provide the data that we're cleaner. We can provide the data that we're cleaner probably than the electric grid. I know the one that everybody watches is that state out west. And we've given those folks the data about their electric grid. They import, I think, 40+% of the power into California. And in totality, if you account for all that power generation and where it all comes from, propane is cleaner than the California electric grid. So that's not going to stop the ban that's going to happen, I don't think, out there. So we still are working through that, working through it with customers. We actually have some fleets in California that just went propane, which I found interesting with the new regulations coming. So interesting times to be in this small engine space for sure.
One question I have for you, and this would be from the staunch critic out there, or maybe just somebody that's skeptical. What's the incentive to go propane or convert to propane when maybe something's readily available, like a gas station? Fill up for some of those mowers. Fuel prices have came down a little bit. They used to be $5, $5.30 a gallon. It was actually getting me even nervous. Our $150 fill-ups when 18 months prior was $40 a fill-up.
Yeah.
Do you guys see like the same fluctuations in the propane market? And then otherwise, like, this is just my own personal question here. What's the incentive or the perk? Do they get a higher rating or a thumbs up, on their ESG score, or feel more environmentally friendly? Some people are very keen to that. So I'm sure no right or wrong answer. I just selfish question.
No, great question. So I think you hit a couple of very key points. So I think we see interest in propane mowing when we see gasoline and diesel prices spike. We do not, general statement, we don't fluctuate as bad as those two fuels do. So that big run up during COVID and right after COVID, we didn't have that same price increase that gasoline and diesel did. So the folks who are using propane for their mowing segments were doing very well. The second point you brought up, I think, is exactly key. And some of those large fleets that are using propane fleets exclusively are talking about the environmental benefits of our fuel versus gasoline versus diesel, and they're doing that in their bid process. You mentioned ESG scores, and that's a key point. And any corporate client that somebody has out there, I guarantee they've got an ESG component to their business. And I think this is a great tool that you could use to put yourself in a better light when you're doing a bid, or just putting yourself in good graces with an existing customer to have a more environmentally friendly fuel running around their campus. We're doing a demo right now in California with a very large company, a national company, for the exact same reasons. They're looking at battery. They point blank told me we can't spend $30,000 per machine for new equipment everywhere across the country. So they've actually bought a couple units. They're demoing a John Deere Gator that's on propane as well. So we've got other pieces of equipment that could benefit some folks that are out there listening today. But I think the ESG side of it is really a great story for us.
I like it. Let me ask you this. I'm a simpleton. So if I'm trying to fill up these tanks or, quote unquote, charge them up, how does that look like? I would imagine, locally I have a couple of propane businesses, and I could take my tanks there to refill. Is that what I'm doing with some of these tanks, swapping them out, or can I have an on-site charging system? Again, selfish question, but just to maybe make the loop go full circle here.
Yeah, that's the one I think we got to get everybody past initially before they even consider whether it's a good thing for their business or not. All the above, what you just mentioned, you hit them all. So it could be, if you're a small user, you may take these cylinders to your local propane supplier and have them filled on their site. If you're using a decent amount, they could come to your place, fill them, or do a cage and just do an empty swap. Pull the empties, put full ones in for you. And if you're a large user, most likely they're going to install a charging system or refueling station that you guys can actually refuel after training, of course, refuel your own on site. So all of those three are options. And I think that's the advice that I give. That's the first thing you got to figure out. If somebody's even considering this, find out who you want to deal with on your propane locally. There's going to be multiple options for you. If you do, they actually you go to our website, punch your zip code in, it'll tell you everybody within a radius that you can buy propane from. But you got to find who that trusted supplier is going to be. Have that conversation first and kind of figure that detail out, because that's the one that gives everybody heartburn. Is trying to figure out, gosh, I can't stop at the local Speedway or, Casey's to get these things filled up. And how are we going to do this? And I think that's the first domino that's got to fall.
Well, and if I can just give you guys a plus one in your hat, it's the same conversation you're having with electric regardless. So I think you said it at the top of the show here. Somebody's just trying to convert their fleet over to electric mainstream, especially for the mowers. If you don't have access to a 220, 240 plug, which is the real, bottleneck in most of this equation outside of the price point, it wouldn't be any different of a barrier of entry if you guys are looking at propane. So for your gas enthusiasts out there, maybe it's for you, maybe it's not. But for some of you guys looking to convert from battery or to battery, maybe give propane a look as an alternative as well. If you're going to have some of those same hurdles to overcome, you might find long-term that the propane option is a better bet for you guys. Anything else you want to weigh in on that, Michael? I think that's a really relevant topic.
I think it's a very good topic. I don't know that we talked about it on camera or before we started, but let's make sure we hit it. So that's a bottleneck. The amps coming into your building to recharge a battery fleet. If you want to go that way, I think that's a big consideration. Do you have enough amps? And if you don't, what's that upgrade cost look like to get the additional power into your building? Propane, if you want to go a different route, propane, we offer all kinds of power generators that run on propane. So it may be a cheaper solution, to be very honest. Even if you go battery and you don't have the amps coming in to recharge, it may be cheaper for you to buy a generator than to upgrade your electrical system. So take that into consideration when you're making that decision too.
Yeah, amen. I just had the guys over at my property last Thursday, Friday, installing utilities for our barn. We just built a barn, and it was $6,600 to run the conduit for all the electric utilities. I got two 240 plugs going in there because we know a lot of us equipment is moving towards battery. But yeah, that was a $6-7 grand retrofit and or just upgrade to make it while we could before everything is finalized. And it's a real investment. And I have a very small company compared to some of the guys that are out there probably watching this. So it's got to do the math. Funny story. So we do big truck shows out in Anaheim, California, where all the huge Class 8 trucks, so the semis, over-the-road semis came in. They were doing all these EV demos, and this has been a few months ago. They actually had one of our vendors with their propane powered generators come in to charge all these EV trucks for the ride and drives because they didn't have enough power on site at the convention center to recharge them. So all these companies that were offering these cool ride and drives were actually charging with our fuel out back, which is a great story for us. So absolutely. Yeah, we've all seen the memes on Instagram and TikTok. I have a Tesla, and I will tell you, there's many a times where I've seen the memes of people charging on the side of the road with a diesel generator, propane, outfit of some capacity, charging these things up. Right? It's I think most people are pretty akin, to the cost and benefit analysis and all that stuff. So in that regard, I would encourage you guys to do some research here. We'll make sure to leave links in the description. You guys can get some more education here. Michael, let me do this really quick. If you had to summarize it all in, 45 seconds or less, what's the biggest takeaway that you want these guys to learn or to take away from this whole conversation about propane? What would that messaging look like for you?
Yeah, I think we'd want everybody in the audience to understand that it's an option. We think it's an incredibly good alternative to gasoline or diesel, just because of the environmental aspects of it. From a cost standpoint, we're going to be incredibly cost competitive with those fuels. Probably should be on the beneficial side to us. And we think we're an alternative. You know, if you're moving to battery because of the ESG opportunities, I think we've got an equally good ESG conversation and story to tell with your client with propane than you do electricity. It's going to be a little bit more complicated to tell that story because of power generation, transmission, those types of things. It's going to be a life cycle discussion, but we can help you through that. And I think you have a better performing unit for you and your crews. I think that's the benefit for you.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Hey, one quick funny story that I'd like to share is there's a local big box store where we live, and they had a John Deere mower, the company that serviced it. Had a John Deere mower with, if not one, maybe two saddlebags for the propane tanks. Yeah. And I had never seen anything like that. And not only did it have the propane, it had the Michelin wheels, if you know, like those run flats.
Yep.
So this thing was like, it looked like a transformer. I had never seen anything like that. And gosh, that was 7 or 8 years ago. And it was one of the national companies. And so one thing I'm always trying to do with my company is emulate what other successful people are doing. And if I see some of the larger companies with some of these different technologies coming on their fleets, it makes me look across the aisle. It makes me look over the fence and say, what are they doing? I'm sure somebody has ran the numbers that has a couple college degrees or a whole department that has ran the math. So for me personally, and something I'd encourage you guys listening in as well, don't just, throw a blind ear or a blind eye to what, these guys are sharing. Do some research and see if it makes sense for you, especially some of you guys that are really considering battery and electric. This could be that change you're looking for, and possibly a cleaner solution, and maybe even a better price point. So, Michael, can't thank you enough, brother. Where can people find more information about all this conversation? This is good.
Absolutely. Super easy. The website to remember. It's propane.com. You can search by commercial mowing. We've got a really cool cost calculator on there. If you want to compare yourself to gasoline from an economic standpoint, you can play around with the numbers. It'll just spit out what the savings would be. So go to propane.com, search commercial mowing in the top search bar.
That's awesome. Hey, you know what? Last quick funny story. We are living in our camper on site at our house as it's getting finished up. So I have actually found my local propane place, and just the other day we picked them up as a new snow and ice client, which is awesome.
Nice.
So I actually know where all my propane places are locally, and if I'm already there plowing snow, and we're already going to be mowing the grass in the future, wouldn't be that big of a stretch to go fill up some of our tanks if we need to. How about that?
Yeah, that's right. And this time of year, I'm sure where you live, the snow is probably already fallen. So that season has probably started for you.
Yeah, we're going through our tanks about every 2 weeks or so, which isn't actually not that bad. I've told some people the conversation, and they said, well, compared to paying for heating fuel or having a direct line eventually to the house, it's actually not that bad. And I agree. It wasn't as expensive or the sting that I thought. So again, conversations like this make my ears perk up, and I'm sure I'd be doing the same thing for a lot of you guys out there. Michael, can't thank you enough for the time. I'm sure we'll be doing some more in the future. But this is a good conversation starter. And as you guys are shopping for equipment in the future, maybe give Propane a look and do some research for you guys. Mike, I'll give it to you. Any last thoughts? But thanks again for your time, brother.
Hey, I appreciate it, Brian. Anybody that has questions, I think the best place to start is propane.com. So thanks again for your time.
All right. Well, hey, guys, appreciate y'all watching and listening in. And you guys have a beautiful day. And we'll catch up with you guys here on the next one.
Before you turn off the podcast, there are 2 things that we believe you will be highly interested in. First, if you're looking to stay up to date with the latest trends and insights in the world of lawn care, then you'll want to subscribe to our free email newsletter. It shows up in your inbox 3 times a week and includes a Monday motivational to kick off your week, a Wednesday what's new to keep you informed, and a Friday weekly recap of all the content we put out. The second thing is we have just launched Lawntrepreneur Academy Link. Now you can be a part of an exclusive community that links you to those who can help you grow in your lawn care business. Joining Lawntrepreneur Link will give you the tools that you need to stay accountable, get real-time expert advice, and find belonging in a community of folks who are passionate about the lawn care industry just like you. Visit LawnTrepreneurAcademy.com to learn how Link membership gives you unique access to monthly hangouts, bidding hour calls, coaching calls, expert lessons, and more. Stay ahead of the curve and level up your business with a membership to the Lawntrepreneur Academy link. Find an easy-to-use link in the podcast description.
Thanks for taking the time to listen to the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast with Brian Fullerton. We hope you enjoyed this production. If so, please consider leaving us a 5-star review for the show. While the techniques and ideas presented here are designed to help you grow a more successful and profitable business, no one can guarantee these results for you. We want to emphasize that entrepreneurship is not easy, and the ideas presented here are just the opinions of Brian Fullerton and his respective guests. No one can guarantee success for you. That being said, we hope the ideas presented here help you and motivate you to go on out there and crush it with your own business.
Fullerton Unfiltered Podcast.
Thanks for listening, and we hope to see you on the next episode.
This has been a Brian Fullerton and Mr. Producer production.